Teresa Nichols. This is the What You Don't Know podcast, brought to you by the Know Like Trust Report, a simple, actionable survey that asks the most important questions. So today I'm so excited that Gery Deer is with us today. He is with GLD Communications. He's been in public relations for many, many years, and that's really interesting to me because PR is communications. So, what we're talking about with Know Like Trust and with What You Don't Know is feedback. So, I really was curious about Gery's perspective on this. So, first question, Gery, talk to me a little bit about Know Like Trust, because we met in through BNI, right, which is Business Network International. So we met through this organization,
Right.
and they talk a lot about Know Like Trust. So you've been in BNI a very long time. So tell me about your thoughts on this Know Like Trust philosophy.
Well, know like trust is used by a lot of organizations. I mean, their whole concept is that if you get to know someone and you like them, you tend to start trusting that person and you'll work with them. That's just kind of the basic of it. I tend to replace the phrase with know respect trust, know KNOW, because I think respect is more important than being liked. I would rather have there are people that I have fundamental differences with, political, personal, whatever, that I can work with very well. But it's because we have that mutual respect. We don't necessarily have to like what we all stand for. We like each other in some fashion, otherwise we couldn't get along at all. But I think respect is a little more important there. And really the whole idea to me is that the word like implies something that's far too subjective for my taste if I'm trying to go into business with somebody, especially if that's what we're talking about. But really in a lot of other ways too. I think we have, personal relationships that don't have enough trust because the respect wasn't there in the first place. You might like somebody and really, oh, they're great, and you spend time with them, but maybe you don't have any respect for them, or it's not where it should be. So respect is something that I can actually quantify. I can tell you why I have respect for somebody. I can't always tell you why I like somebody. That's just kind of how it works. It's got to be earned.
I love that. I had thought about that a lot as I have built my Know Like Trust survey. And because the word like is like kind of like you said, it's subjective. So instead of changing it, I've just defined it a little bit differently, where I'm saying, to help people out, I'm saying, is this person likable? What makes this person likable versus do you like this person? To kind of take that personal emotional feel out of it.
Yeah.
But I have seriously thought about maybe adding every once in a while to the survey just a question of respect. Do you respect this person? Because
I
I
think
think that
respect is
is,
too. It's
yeah.
super. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. I think it's super important that respect is there because even as you said, you said the operative word is emotion. The
Yeah.
whole idea of liking somebody is entirely emotionally driven. There's no
Hmm.
logic to it. It's hard to quantify. Where if you respect somebody, you can now find out why. Well, I respect that they do hard work. I respect that they have a similar work ethic, or that they, whatever that thing is. It's easy enough to put a pin in that, and it helps you a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why too in the survey I have added a field for other comments,
Good.
because that respect thing, it might come out if you have a place where you can put more feedback. I feel like the respect will probably come out a little bit.
Yep.
So let's go back a little bit. Tell me
Okay.
about your organization, since we didn't get into that a lot. Tell me about your company and what you do, and just how important feedback is to your organization.
Well, you hit on it a little bit where we are a public relations agency, but really, we provide innovative marketing and public relations solutions. We have award-winning creative. We work with high-tech innovation and we attach that high-tech innovation to what I like to refer to as time-tested technique, which is things that you don't always see. Everybody wants to do the biggest, baddest thing, the latest thing. Let's go do that. So the problem is they're forgetting the innovations of the past that got us here. and sometimes those are the right way to go. So when we're talking about how that relates to all this, you said it earlier about communication. It really is about storytelling. Everything we do is about storytelling, whether we're making a video project or we're doing a podcast, something like this, or we're creating one for a client, or we're doing something like a feature story, and we send those all over the country. Our media goes national, and that it's important you can tell that story, and we want that broader visibility for people, and that causes people to start liking you, because when they get that story, they start knowing who you are, they start trusting what you're all about, they want to know more about you. So all that is in that storytelling process.
Nice. Wow. So you kind of start with know, like, trust in mind, or
Yeah.
know, respect, trust in mind.
Well, that's what marketing is. I mean, we don't really think about it this way, but I can sum up the entire concept of marketing, which PR is part of that, in 3 terms. It's visibility, engagement, and follow-up. That's it. That's all of marketing right there. And if you
Okay.
break those other things down, you're talking about feedback. How does that work impact you or your clients? What kind of feedback are you getting has to do with, very simply, the obvious feedback is, are they selling more products? Are they getting a download of a thing that they wanted to do? Or whatever their goal is, if you're achieving those things, that's the first line of feedback that you get. And I've just found over the years that a lot of digital marketing and some other things like that don't combine these innovations kind of fall flat. There's not enough material there to get that feedback. You don't tell them what you want them to do. You're not giving them the story behind the ad, and that feedback's always really important there. You got to remember that that it's all perception. Everything we do in business is perception. If people don't perceive it the right way, then it doesn't matter what we think we are.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. What about, have you ever had an experience yourself or with a client where maybe the story wasn't exactly right, or something came out that kind of changed the story? Have you ever felt like there was just, I don't know, something that when the feedback came in, it was like, wait a minute, are you guys, is this right? Are you put yourselves
Let
out
me
there?
see if I understand you. So
Yeah.
if the message that went out does not reflect what we're getting back,
Yeah.
what we're trying to get them to do is not what they're doing, then there's an old axiom in advertising that if you don't like what they're saying about you, change the conversation. And some of that, we've done some research before we go out, so it's very likely that's not going to happen very often. What does happen, though, is if you get feedback that somebody posted online, like if you get a critique or you get a review or something that's bad, most of the time we ignore it, unless it's a client. If it's a customer, like for a client of ours, let's say, and we're working with them and they call me up and say, hey, somebody just posted a really negative review about us, what should we do? We're on the PR side here. My first thing is, do you know who they are, and are they a customer? Yes. Well, then we will address that directly to that person. But you don't get into a slugging match on social media. That's never going to go anywhere. It's always going to be bad.
Yeah.
And if you get that kind of feedback, you just have to realize that that's a 2% thing, unless you've done something really bad, which we're going to assume that you haven't in this case, and you're really just trying to take a look at that review or that comment and go, hey, we're sorry you had that experience. Let's make it right. I can give you a really weird example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got and this is me as a consumer.
Okay.
You know what Triscuits are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I bought this box of Triscuits, and it was dill and olive oil, and I was plowing through this. I didn't even look. I'm just like, it's one of those things you shouldn't be doing, like where you're just munching away. And I'm going through this, and I reached in and I picked out this thing that looked like one of those little bales of alfalfa you give to a guinea pig, the little square block. And it was all mashed together. I'm like, what is this? And in my head, I knew what it was. I understand manufacturing and how these things are made. And I'm like, well, it looks like the olive oil and all this, the stuff just got clumped together, right? But I sent a message through their Twitter feed and said,
Oh,
"Hey
this is
guys,"
recent.
with pictures, and said, "Hey guys,
Wow.
I don't know if you saw this, but," and I sent them a picture of the box top, so they had the, product number, and I got an answer back within about 15 minutes, and this was on a Sunday night, about 10
Wow.
o'clock at night, and I figured, somebody will get to it eventually. I dumped it all out to make sure, this really was just a manufacturing glitch. There was nothing wrong with it. But
Yeah.
they got back to me, asked me for more information. They were trying to track down what group it was in, so we didn't have a bunch of those on the other side of things.
Very
And
cool.
they sent me a coupon for a new box, which was
Nice.
unnecessary. There was
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. It just clumped up. It was no big deal. But that kind of feedback, that I was willing to help them with the problem instead of just go, "Oh, you crazy people are trying to kill me," with all this. We get those too, and we get the other side. We're the crazy people that's trying to kill us, kind of people too. But I think you really have to just know how to engage it, and that's part of what PR people are for. It used to be that marketing companies around the world were called PR firms. They still are. Only in the United States do we call marketing companies marketing companies. If you go to Canada or England or some of the other companies that or countries that have marketing agencies, they're almost all called public relations agencies, because they realize you're dealing with the public here. This isn't about sending stuff to the press.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different thing. If you can respond the way Nabisco did about this Triscuit, it seemed like it's such a small thing. That's a huge piece of feedback.
Yeah, that's really great.
And I finished the box, by the way.
Nice. And did you get your free box
I
too?
did. I got my free, and I kept saying, and the messages back, I'm like, you don't really need to do. No, we really appreciate the. Okay, fine. So,
Yeah.
it was fine with me. I'll take their free box. It was a box. It wasn't like a crate or,
Yeah.
but it was still the offer was nice. Even if I
Yeah.
hadn't used the coupon, the offer was nice because it was like recognizing, oh, hey, we made a mistake with this thing. We don't want our product to be seen that way. And I didn't post it online. This did not go public. I sent it directly to them and said, here's this problem. If I wanted to be like the people we're talking about that give you the bad feedback, it's going to go on Facebook, it's going to go on Twitter, it's going to go wherever, X or whatever it's called
Hmm.
now. And it gets a little stupid. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was too long of a story, but you get the idea.
No, that's awesome that you experienced an older organization, because is that Nabisco,
Yeah.
that has embraced social media
Yeah.
and allowed it to be a place where people can send them feedback,
Well,
which
and
is
it's
so
important
cool.
I should have noted this, that Triscuit had its own social media account. Triscuit,
Okay.
specifically that product.
Yeah,
And
that's
larger
great.
companies, we will see that on a regular basis. I work with a lot of authors. And one of the things that I teach the authors when they're building their platform is to create social media for their individual book. So each title has its own social media platform. So that way
Wow.
people can respond and talk about that. The author will have their own, and because the author is the manufacturer, if you will, and the book is the
Yeah.
product. But this week they might write science fiction. Next week they might write romance. Who knows? So it's like it gives them more of an option. And to see a large company behave that way is kind of reassuring, because it meant there was a person back there who actually gave
Right.
a care of that this thing was making them look bad. They didn't want that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. All right. So let's go back a little bit to your organization
uh-oh.
and how do you solicit for feedback? Do you do that? And if you do, how do you do it? And why do you do that?
The easiest way that we do that is kind of like what everybody else would think of. It's we do some reviews. We ask for reviews all the time from clients, and we give them an easy route to the Google review. But we also do exit or post project interviews. When we're done with something. Now, I should say most of our clients are long term. Like, we're doing something that lasts for a while, so we're with them
Yeah.
for a considerable period of time. Some are on retainers, so they're with us for a couple of years, maybe longer. But we will do these post project interviews and just try to find out. So, how did it go? What did you think? And get some pretty straightforward type things back. And surveys help too if they're willing to do them. They have to be really easy, but you can't lead them to the answer you want. you have to give them the opportunity to say, hey, this really sucked. You could fix this if you do that, you know. Because I like to ask directly. If you've got an issue with something I'm doing, just tell me. We'll fix it. If you don't tell me, we get to the end of the project, and then you're mad about it. I can't do anything about that then. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
that's you gotta think about it from the customer angle. We're all customers, right? We've all been customers. So I try to make sure that is an expectation that's upfront, that they know that they can just talk to me about anything. The other way is that I will often send out a typewritten thank you note, like on an antique typewriter, and hand sign it. And it's done in a little, I don't have any here to show you, but they're just little half sheet things. They've got letterhead, and it tells you in print at the bottom which typewriter they were done on. So it's something people are
Okay.
going to hold on to. But it's a thank you note, and basically says, I really appreciate your time. It goes through postal mail, so they're going to get it in their hand and they're going to hold on to it. And there's usually a line under there somewhere that's asking if there's any aspect of the experience that you had with us that we could improve on. Whether that was just a meeting with us about something, or something you felt particularly strongly about. I got some feedback today, actually. This is a good point to talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Please.
had a client who we thought we had a call with today, and it turned
Okay.
out that he thought we were scheduling it, and we thought he was scheduling it on a calendar invite, and we do ours manually, and he uses Calendly, but never send a link. We didn't send him one, and it just got dropped. So when I
Okay.
sent the reminder, I have an automatic reminder system. When he got it last night, I get a note back from him today that says, "What? I didn't schedule a meeting." And so my hand goes up and says, "Okay, sorry, our fault. How can we adjust to your time scale?" You know, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. We need to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, that's an easy thing, rescheduling an appointment. That's not a big
Mhm.
deal. It shouldn't be the end all be all of everything. And I know some people get caught up in that, but that works too. When you get that kind of feedback and someone is willing, and I just noticed a few minutes before we started, I did get an email back from him that had a long explanation of how it got
Oh.
mixed up on their end after I gave him one of our end. So we both
Okay.
know, okay, we both had a hand in this. Let's just fix it. You know, it's not a
Yeah.
big deal. We're in very preliminary stages of talking about a new project. So it's not going to hurt anything if we have to delay it. But getting that feedback was really important, because now I know, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to figure out a better way to do this. It might be dropping the ball someplace.
Yeah. So, was that something that you'll be able to use for the future too, or mostly with him, or is it something you kind of changed your process because of that feedback that you
Well,
got?
it's a couple of things really, because part of it is confirmation. I mean, that's why they get the follow-up email a day or two ahead to go, hey, are you sure, you know, is everything okay? We're just, you know, confirming our appointment today.
Hmm.
But I think also, I don't like to use the Calendly links. I think they're kind of, for our business, it's kind of impersonal. It's not a good thing. And my calendar changes by the minute. And if I forget to put
Hmm.
something there, they schedule something, and you know, that's not fair to them. So I try to still do that by manual. So we're going to have to make sure now, to be fair, this stuff does not happen very often. I can't remember the last time something like happened, but it
Hmm.
is hard to schedule when you don't know things like that. So I'll probably make a change or two somewhere in there. You know,
Yeah.
be sure that we do this, and this came from my business partner. So she was doing the scheduling, and we thought we had it right, and he thought he had it right. So there was no way to fix any of that, except make sure on our side, we can't control his side, obviously. So it's the same advice I give people on any of their work, which is make sure you're covering your end, so that way the other side is not going to be such a big problem. So
Hmm.
we're fixing our side to make it just more smooth, is all.
So, oddly that you said that, over the weekend, I was supposed to do a pitch competition, and the link was gone because it was through Calendly, and
Oops.
I never did find it. And I reached out to the company and said, I'm probably not going to be on this call when I'm supposed to be on the call because I have no idea. I don't have a link. And I'm pretty sure it was Calendly, and I feel like Calendly gets stuck, like in the junk mail, and I even looked in my junk mail and I didn't see it, but it's so separate from your own email
Yeah.
that I don't know, it just gets lost, it gets stuck somewhere.
And I
So
think we
my
also tend
feedback
to
for Calendly.
There was something better when we had ourselves or someone actually wrote it down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
our mental processes are different. It's one of the reasons that I take the time to do the little thank you notes on the typewriter because, first of all, I need to justify having so many antique typewriters. But once I've done that, now I'm just, you know, now it's a use of something that's kind of, you know, it's a novelty. People get a physical piece of paper. But I can, you know, I can tell you right now that the majority of my work is in this little notebook because as technologically advanced as we are around here, that can't get hacked. The battery's not going to go dead. I'm always going to have it. And I was not there the day we made this appointment that I was talking about. So when if you're too interdependent on all this stuff, that's when
Mm-hmm.
it comes in to be a problem. Like you said, if it's not there, then what? What are you
Yeah.
supposed to do? A lot of places
Right.
don't even give you a phone number to call. You have no one to communicate with. So what are you supposed to do about that? So that's feedback too. Honestly, if you well, okay, we sent this thing out. You know, I do workshops once a quarter, and we use Eventbrite to manage the workshop because it's easier. You know, I don't have to really do anything. It's got all the money there, and when it's done, they've paid their fee, and you know, I don't have to do anything. But I get this nice printout of whoever it is. Except, what about those people who come last minute? We still have space. We let people know. Just show up. You know, we've got a credit card swiper, all that sort of stuff. But you don't know if you end up having enough seats because now the electronic thing is not there for you to guide you. So now it's gone the other way, where the electronic thing would actually be more helpful. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to just make it, you know, that is personal feedback as well as, you know, just from your business. It's just making sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I love that you do the interview. I do feel like this day and age, there aren't a lot of interviews of like exit interviews going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten really good feedback from one of those interviews?
I was just trying to think about that. I think the best piece of feedback um, that I got from one of those clients was really not so much about our process, but the fact that when this was very early on, that a lot of times people don't understand what it is that they're buying, especially in a creative shop, because they don't get, there's nothing tangible to hand you. You know, we're creating a plan for you, and you're going to implement that plan. And there's certain milestones with that, but it doesn't always help. Um, I think for me, the most frustrating part of any professional having a professional service is when the client doesn't listen to you in the first place, and then at the end goes, "Well, you didn't tell us that." Yeah, I did, but you didn't read it or whatever was going on, and you didn't ask the questions. So I think when I got those pieces of feedback, I either started to recognize things that people would say early on that would tell me, "Hey, this may not be a good client for you," or things that say, "Hey, you're going to have trouble with this because this guy never picks up his phone. He's got a flip phone, does not answer email, you know, whatever, that you're going to have to find another way to communicate with him." And
Mm-hmm.
so one of those
Really?
pieces of feedback was about how we communicated. Most everything we did was over email. And I think that's what really spawned the idea of doing the interviews either on a phone call or a Zoom call or something. You know, we didn't do those until COVID. We really didn't use the video calls as much. But the physical, you know, actually tell me what you thought kind of thing, I think that makes a big difference. And it's hard because people don't, I'll tell you why we got away from it. People are scared of those interviews. They don't
Yeah.
want to know what they did wrong. You know,
Right.
it's too personal. It's right there. And even with this, you know, okay, I can't let them see me sweat. You know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
They're unused to people. They're not used to people saying, okay, just tell me how bad it is. I need to know.
Yeah.
Because how can I help you better or fix it for somebody else if I don't know that I'm doing something that's throwing people? I'm not on
Mhm.
your side on that end of the conversation, so you got to tell me.
So, what about during those exit interviews? Was there ever anything else that came out that was beneficial, even if it wasn't so much feedback, but just like a little nugget of something that
Um,
you, and I'll give you an example. This happened to me. It was crazy. It just so I went through the classes to be a project manager,
okay.
and I realized that project managers are very organized, got things, pretty buttoned up. And I started to implement things in my life because everything you do is a project. I mean, if it's short term, high school is a project, college is a project, moving is a project, everything is a project. So we were selling a house, and we had all this wood in the back from the people that lived there before us, and I decided I was going to burn it all because it was all moldy, and it was gross, and there was bugs in it. I was like, I got to get rid of it so we can sell this house. And so I started burning all the wood. We had a full court, basketball court in our backyard. It was kind of cool. So one day, my husband and our son was back there. They were back there, and they walked in, and I heard him say, like, oh, we can't play basketball because the court is all full of all this wood. And it was wild to me. It was like going back to my project management of that I did not manage this project very well, that they couldn't use the basketball court. And it was feedback, even though they didn't say it directly to me. And I learned so much from that experience. And so I was curious if you ever had that kind of moment where maybe a client didn't say something, but you got something out of it, you kind of got some feedback from it.
I think probably if I was going to pick one, it would be a time when someone, not because of something they said, but more the way they chose the next thing we were going to do with them. What it told me was that they didn't totally understand what all we do.
Okay.
And it's difficult. I'm not going to, I don't throw shade on that. It is difficult because we're multifaceted. We're a marketing agency that just happens to have a lot of different niche focuses that we can pick from. One of those is IT work, because that's how the company started. GLD Communications began as a computer consulting firm.
Wow.
And it had a public relations sidearm, if you will, like a side hustle that was part of it. But as the IT stuff got less prevalent, because computers got more stable and less expensive and all that, you didn't need somebody to come and fix it. You just bought another one. It's a couple $100, as opposed to when I started, when a desktop machine was $3,000. So there's a whole lot of difference there. So it started to kind of go the other way. But with all the things we're capable of, the lady was kind of thrown that she just kept pushing that we're going to do this one thing for her, but she needed these other things over here. And it was really hard to go, hey, look, we can take care of that too, because it would have made my job easier to do the things she wanted us to do if I had cleaned up the other mess she had on the other side of the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it was that told me, okay, we need to clarify this a little better. And that's probably 8 or 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly, but it let us be a little more fluid in how we communicate about ourselves. I don't like being known as a marketing agency or an ad agency, because people have a thing in their head. If you say ad agency, they got Mad Men in their mind. Where you're just selling us crap and billing us for things, like a lawyer or something.
Yeah.
But the other end of that is, you're a digital marketer. No, we're not. We're not selling you digital ads. We're not doing any of that. We're a creative shop. So our job is to figure out where the best place to put it. Well, these people didn't know that. They just thought, well, we do this thing. And that helped me to better introduce our entire line of things. Once we got the information we need now about a particular client, one, for example, we're doing a podcast for a new client, and that's going to end up being more than just the podcast. But they don't know that yet, because it's the would you like fries with that part of your sales process.
Nice.
Oh, wait,
that's awesome.
I didn't know you sold fries. Yeah, we got them right here. Well, I got to have that because I got a burger over here, like that's how it works. But if they don't know you have it and you don't want to push it, but it would help you, getting that feedback from that person that they didn't understand that we did all that made a difference. That was really helpful. And they have no idea that they helped us. And they ended up staying with us for like 3 years. So.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's a great story. Thank you for that. Oh, I did want to ask about the typewriters.
Oh,
How many did you say you have?
I just got my fourth one. Now I've
Okay.
got to clarify this. I came into office work in college about the time that typewriters and computers were sharing space.
Okay.
We still had plenty of typewriters. We still had plenty of computers. Computers were brand new. Computers were brand
Yeah.
new, and I even had a typing class in high school. I mean, it was still teaching you how to do everything. So
Yeah.
when I first went into college, I bought a portable typewriter that was used from the '60s. I bought it from the first owner. I think I gave $25 for it. And if you go out and look at my website, or you find my LinkedIn or something like that, you'll see a picture. One of my most recent headshots, we did a full body headshot in the original typewriter sitting in front of me.
Oh, that's
And
fun. Mhm.
but I started using it more a few years ago, and then it
Okay.
started. Wow, I found out that a lot of people were using them. That they had made a
Oh, okay.
resurgence about 12 or 14 years ago, and really started to grow. And
Nice.
I visited this one. Somebody gave me a broken one. I was going to make it, try to fix it, and have it out all the time. And I took it to the typewriter shop that's nearby here. That's brand new, started by a really young guy who's just fascinated with them and is a fantastic mechanic on these things. And instead of fixing it, I ended up buying the one that's over my shoulder here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a 1945 Smith Corona clipper. It's a
Wow.
writer's typewriter. It's the kind that reporters used to carry around in the 50s. Um,
That's
and then eventually there was a second one, and then my brother gave me one, which is his original Underwood that he had in college. He's a good bit older than me, and he had it in college in the '60s, and he gave me that one. Um, and
I thought you were
then
gonna say you had like 30 or 40 of them.
no, I only
So
have four. I only
four
have
is
four.
that's
But there was
reasonable.
supposed to be just three. Well, no, that's wrong. Technically, I had four because I don't think about my brothers because it's more of a conversation piece. It's too big to.
Okay.
It's a desk machine. It's not a portable.
Yeah.
But the other ones, I went on a camping trip a couple of weeks ago, and after kayaking, I walked through this antique mall, and there it was, another one, and it was pristine. It was a 1950. We think it's a 55. We're
Wow.
still checking the serial numbers, but Royal, and it had the clamshell cover and all this other stuff. Was people talk about it like a classic car, so that's what it's going to end up
Yeah.
sounding like. It was,
Right.
light blue with, enamel highlights and gold lettering. It's going to sound like it only had 35,000 miles on it.
Thank you so much, Gery, for your stories. Have an awesome week, Gery.
See ya.
Bye.